Night Road is created by Bousoft, an indie title crafted with great potential for survival horror, with a charming art style that mixes 2D characters in 3D environment. The game plays as a side-scrolling action shooter, but it has quiet moments of deadly silence that builds the horror atmosphere before the loud blazing gunfire takes over. You start your journey waking up from a school, suffering from amnesia, unable to recall your recent past as to why you are in a world riddled with monsters, all alone with no one else there to share your pain of loneliness. With no weapons to start with, you are left to avoid monsters to the best of your abilities by simply jumping past them. Very quickly you acquire your first weapon, which is nothing more than just a blunt object to swing around dealing damage that is good enough for only weak enemies like spiders, but not strong enough to actually try to kill anything bigger. Well, you can try and succeed of course, but the game clearly wants to tell you not to waste your time with them before acquiring some more powerful weapons, as killing them takes a very long time. I like this, it's great how the game slowly builds you to become stronger. You can even return to old places later to acquire stronger weapons like a shotgun, which is not a must, but something that will prove to be very useful as the enemies become stronger. Later on you acquire a new ability which allows you to double jump that can get you past obstacles that you could not reach before, which opens up new areas in the world that, though not seamless, is connected to one another for you to explore in any order you like, as long as there's no obstacles to stop you accessing new areas that require a key or ability. You can view the world from your map that expands itself as you access new areas for the first time. There's fast travel and save points that make your journey quick and easy after you reach these milestone statues that feel like a blessing from the sky after a tough long road struggling to survive from all the enemies along the way. The enemy designs are nothing spectacular, but the chosen art style does give them a small dose of charm that you don't get to see so often. There's some wacky looking enemies here and there, nothing that will give you goosebumps, but they fit in the world just fine. The game doesn't necessarily try to scare you, it simply has just an eerie atmosphere to it, and it works well for this purpose. That is, however, where the game's charm ends, and here comes a truckload of bad game design choices that absolutely destroyed the overall experience to a level where I simply did not care to finish the game despite having spent my money on it. You heard me right, I actually did not finish this one, and I want to let you know that I absolutely tried to finish it. I even returned to it multiple times, having decided that enough is enough just because I really wanted to make a complete review of it. But unfortunately, Night Road suffers from what I can only describe to be the worst gameplay experience I've had since JK Hazard. There's a lot to cover here, so I will briefly go through them all. First of all, the controls are absolutely horrendous. For some reason the developer thought it is a good idea to have two different action buttons to do different things like go through dialogue, access new areas, as well as talk to the stone statues. I constantly got these two buttons mixed despite trying my best to memorize them. Why there could not be simply one action button to do all these things is a good question to raise when the game offers no reason to have two buttons for something every game in the history of gaming has always used one button for. To make matters worse, one of the two buttons just so happens to have a backdash on it as well, so when I want to use the action button to talk to the statues or access new areas, I end up backdashing away from them only to try again with the right button this time. It's like the developer ran out of buttons on the keyboard when designing the default controls for it. You can of course change the buttons however you like, but it's never a good sign when the default controls are designed so wrong, and I was right to be worried, because this is not where the nightmares end. You can aim down, forward and up, but just like in JK Hazard, the flying and crawling enemies end up approaching you from angles which are annoyingly hard to aim at. You can crouch to aim at enemies who crawl low, but just take a look at how long it takes to do so. Enemies grab you constantly for sex as they reach you, and once trying to escape them, it is often the case that you end up getting sucked right back in that most likely ends in your own death, unless by miracle the monsters happen to release you further away from them to give you a fair chance to run away. At first, killing enemies felt fun and meaningful, but the further you get in the game, the more enemies start to approach you in great waves, clearly indicating you are not supposed to kill them all, as you don't even have the ammunition to deal with all of them, and even melee weapons have become ineffective at this point. So what you end up doing is running past all the enemies, and as this becomes a habit, it totally breaks the sense of survival horror that the game started with, and now all you end up doing is just avoiding fighting enemies altogether like you were doing a speedrun of the game. It was far more exciting and fun experience dealing with couple enemies every so often, but as they become an army to deal with, the game just becomes totally confused what it tries to be, and it doesn't even feel like it was meant to be this way. It just feels like the developer suddenly decided he wanted to go another direction with the game, but did not bother to change the mechanics for it to feel natural. You can actually run out of bullets for good. If you end up trying killing everything that comes in your way, you are left to wander the world with only the melee weapon that cannot kill anything as the monsters are too strong. Yet it appears you need to kill some enemies in order to get a key to advance, so you might have just ended up dooming yourself, as there are no means to go back in save files to a time when you still had bullets left. The enemy's exact location gets saved once you exit an area. When you return to that same particular area later on, the enemies continue from where you left them off. Now what do you think will happen if the monster happens to stand right in front of an exit point? This happened to me far too many times, and though there are ways to work around it and avoid letting enemies too near the exit point before you leave an area, the developer actually designed some rooms with enemies waiting right in front of the entrance point as a trap waiting to kill you. At first I thought I used the wrong door to enter the room, as there are two doors for the same room and that's why there was a trap waiting for me. But no, they are on both sides. You need to have godlike reflexes to react to these traps before the enemy kills you, even if you know they are there, and yes, it is an insta-kill that sets you all the way back to the last time you visited the save point. When trying to jump over some of these enemies, I need some speed to do so, but even the sprint does not always register, so what I end up doing often is just walk to my death when I expect my character to dash jump. And that moment is perhaps the most frustrating, where you can't even trust your character to run when your life depends on it. I think there's more to cover here, but you probably get by now how broken the controls and the game design can be. It just works against you constantly throughout the entire experience. By the time I ran into a dead end where I simply could not find my next key to advance to the next area, I just could not take it anymore. I spent a couple hours looking around trying to figure out the solution as to where to go and what to do, but nothing I did helped me figure out the solution. And this is not those type of fun puzzles where figuring out what to do next is a rewarding feeling, part of the experience. No, it's just absolutely tedious and boring. The game doesn't try to give you a puzzle, it is the puzzle, a broken one at that. I can't even trust the game to work. I would absolutely not be surprised if this is actually as far as one can go in this game, as there are notable reasons to suspect careless game-breaking design. Reason number one is that the demo did not even bother to tell when it is over. Before I had bought the full version, I tried out the demo and was left wandering aimlessly because the areas where I can actually access in the full version become dead ends with no information to tell me this is as far as I can go in the demo, so of course I thought I need some ability or key to advance and ended up wasting a huge chunk of my time. Having explored all the available areas and killed all the enemies I could with no more bullets left and the world was empty of extra bullets, all I was left with was my melee weapon, which was absolutely no option to deal with any of the remaining enemies, so I had actually doomed myself, unable to continue the game. If by miracle some enemy had the potential to drop a key for me to advance, I was now unable to kill them, because trust me, I tried so hard to melee kill them, but it just takes a ridiculous amount of hits that dying feels like a reward at that point. Okay, so during editing this video I actually happened to notice a tiny key which I had not seen before, thinking it was some ammunition I did not care for. I took the key, which led me to a candy store where I got a laser weapon, which was great because now I actually had some ammunition to kill monsters and continue the game. After this I figured out you can actually jump on top of this tiny decorative lamp to get to the second floor, and thus I went to this abandoned building with flooded elevator where you can get yourself a flamethrower. Except you can't because of the water there. You most likely need to get the water out or have some ability to swim infinitely in order to get it. Well, no big deal, I got the laser weapon at least. So I went to this long grassy road with lots of enemies lurking around and I slaughtered all the enemies I could with the laser weapon, and indeed I discovered a key among their corpses. This key allowed me to enter a shrine where I got another key to another shrine, so why the heck did I have to go to the first shrine in the first place? Well, anyway, I went to the other shrine where I got a machine gun that literally made the battle through the speedrun area a laughable easy mode for me to Rambo through. But again, no key, nothing to allow me to advance. Once more, I was stuck. So all that trouble just to get couple new weapons that did not lead anywhere. There's this magical portal at the end of the road that keeps on killing me as I try to walk through it, which I think is the portal out of this world if I understood correctly, but since it keeps killing me and I have nowhere else to go anymore, I could not but finally give up. There are still a couple doors I was unable to access, but at this point I absolutely don't care. I have given this game more than it deserves of my time. Now back to the original review. If things were not already bad at this point, the developer forgot to add an exit game button so you as the player could quit playing whenever you felt like it. Instead, you have to force shut down the game. Not even the main menu has the means to quit the game. It just goes to show the developer probably did not playtest the final version he put out for sale, but instead just playtested the game as he was building it in the game engine, which would explain many of these issues I just mentioned. Not only is the game a joke when it comes to the game design, but its hentai is also quite cheap looking, not worth the trouble the game gives you. The enemies either grab you for sex or downright kill kill you instantly, so you don't dare to take any chances to surrender yourself to them to see what will happen. As mentioned before, dying sets you back quite a long way at times. But when you do get to see some action, you get a quick hentai scene where you need to quickly tap the jump button to escape, or else the enemy kills you, which always ends up in your character exploding to pieces. The hentai scenes are not meant for your pleasure, as the game gives you no time to enjoy them. The enemies mostly just wrap themselves around your character and wiggle around a little bit, not making any effort to actually do anything that could be called actual animation. I was more into the game for its survival horror aspect than the hentai in the first place, but it seems the game does not want to give you anything worth to hold on to. Night Road is around $18 experience, and as such I absolutely cannot recommend it. The game feels like a hot unfinished mess that would be worth $5 at best, even without all the problems I have just mentioned. It's a shame because it had a lot of potential. The world felt eerie with some interesting looking locations, and your little character you play as is just adorable with everything she does. The combat also, at times when done right, is exciting when every shot counts and you have to go an extra mile to dangerous places in order to get more bullets, or preserve your ammo by using a melee weapon instead. But all this was ruined by the developer's own laziness to playtest and polish his own game before putting it out for sale. Clearly there went a lot of work into making this game, but when the money of your customers is on the line and you ask for more than you deserve, you have given up any room for sympathy, at least from me. Had the game actually worked as intended with not so many flaws to ruin the experience, I could actually recommend it, if only for the survival horror experience, but as the price is too high and the game changes drastically with time, even that experience is short-lived. So all I can say to you is save your time and money with this one. With that kind of price and gameplay, there's a lot of better games out there to enjoy. With that said, this has been my review of Night Road. Now if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to learn more about adult games in the future. If you like what I do here, consider supporting the show on Patreon, link down in the description. With everything said and done, I will see you in the next video.